Morning, everybody. Tax season's coming fast upon us in Canada. We're already at November 25th, a month till Christmas. So with that, let's take a look at the Northern Residents Deduction. We're getting a lot of requests for this. I'm going to go right to the website of Revenue Canada to show you the form. Let's start there and whether or not you qualify. So, very simply type in Northern Residents Deduction Canada tax return. They don't have the forms up yet for 2025. We'll go with that. The first thing you want to know is, do you qualify? So there's two things, okay? So you have to be living for at least 6 months. You have to maintain a dwelling, all right? And you have to determine which zone you're in. There's two zones, Zone A, Zone B. These are called prescribed zones. Now, we're going to choose British Columbia because that's where I'm from. You just click on that down the webpage and it lists all the places. To the left is Zone A, to the right is Zone B. Okay? The form, is difficult if you're using a software that's embedded in your tax return. That is the best way to do this. So what we're going to do is we are going to, I'm going to try to show you this form now. And we're going to take a look at that fillable PDF. Let's just click it open. Make sure you've got the most recent version of Adobe. It's taken a little while to it's taking its time. Really taking its time. Okay, let's open it up. If you don't have the most recent version of Adobe Reader, it doesn't like you. Okay, and it'll tell you, okay, unless you're going to update your Adobe, you're not going to be able to see this. So as you can see, I do like to always show you the forms. This form, with the instructions is like 8 pages long and a lot of calculations to go through. You have to manually do the calculations. It won't do it for you. So I just wanted to show you the form for those of you that want to read everything and want to understand everything. Where I'm going to take you now is to Tax Tips. It's an easier site and it's easier to understand. It's taxtips.ca. We're not going to chat with the expert. We don't need that. So very simply, taxtips.ca. Okay, and this is about filing your Northern Residents Deduction. Okay, just if you're behind on your taxes before 2019, it's line 255. Now it's 25,500. It's under the income tax section 110. Okay, so the Northern Residents Deduction, it's a deduction from income, not a tax credit. So tax is saved at your marginal rate. What that means is basically if you get a tax credit, like a non-refundable tax credit, medical, those sorts of things, you get dollar for dollar against your taxes payable. When you get a deduction, for example, if your tax bracket, you're in the 30% tax bracket and you have $1,000 expense, 30% of that is, what you get your savings on in that tax bracket. So $1,000 times 30%, you get $300, as the tax savings, as opposed to, that's very simplified terms. All right, very simplified. So there are two parts to the Northern Residents Deduction that you get. You get the residency deduction and the travel deduction, okay? So the residency deduction, we went into the two prescribed zones, A and B. And remember, you must have maintained a residence for 6 consecutive months. Now, that doesn't have to be at the beginning. It just has to be within that 12-month period. If you're outside of BC that don't have prescribed zones, or New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island, but we're doing this based on BC. Now, the benefit of Zone A is you get $11 deduction. So if you are 365 days, you maintain that other dwelling, it's a $4,015 deduction against your taxable income. If you're Zone B, it's 50% of that. Okay, none of this is indexed for inflation. Then we're going to go into an additional residency. So you might think, oh, is that double dipping? No, it's not. So first you get to claim Zone A, you get to claim your $4,015 per year. Additional residency, you're allowed to claim it if you maintain and lived in a self-contained dwelling, complete and separate. You've had to have your own kitchen, bathroom, and sleeping facilities and your own private access. Again, 6 months. And you are the only individual in the house claiming that basic residency amount. Okay, so the additional residency, you can be the only person claiming the basic residency. Okay, if only one person in the household has taxable income, right, there's no need for anyone else in the household to claim the residency amount. So I hope that's clear. Now, when you have added up all your expenses, if your employer gives you a Northern Living allowance and they tax you on it, you have to offset that income against the expenses that you're claiming. All right. And then the maximum residency deduction is equal to 20% of your income. So say if you had an 8,200 deduction and you had 50,000 income, so 20% times 50,000 of income, 10,000 would be the maximum deduction you can claim. So let's go right into, Taxtron. We're going to go into a software that I use. We're going to go into Taxtron. I'm going to go to the T1 site here. We're going to go into the net file. Really, really simple. Okay, sign in. Whether you use, I'm going to open a practice return that I did before. Let's do this. We're going to go right to the Northern Residents Deduction to show you how much simpler it is than trying to use the Revenue Canada forms. So, for example, lived on this fictitious address, Northwest Territories, from March 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024. Now, that's not in BC, but say you were in BC, in certain areas, you can get the Zone A, Zone B, Fort Nelson, further north, Atlan. So in this case, it's 307 days. 307 days times your $11 deduction per day is $33.77. Okay, that's the additional. And then what you do is you get your details of travel. Item 1, I'm going to say this is my medical, the travel expense, the lowest fare. All right, so I get to claim typically the lowest fare. Like if you're going to fly business class, or unless you have to because you're not well, you'll only get to claim the $1,200. Okay. So in essence, we've got the $33.77, and in this case, we've got the $1,200. In this case, we had a $5,000 reimbursement, $1,800 if you're on other. And item 3 is nothing. Now, remember the travel deduction is separate. Let's go. So it's allowing Shelley and, Ruth Bev's another person in the household, let's say. So that's $3,700. So $3,700 plus the original up here that you were only allowed to claim is the $1,200. Plus up here, your 307 days is your $33.77. Your total travel expense claim is $8,277. Really simple. It integrates it all for you. You don't have to go through all that work. If you had not claimed this deduction, your refund, let's go to the summary, wouldn't have been $2,000. It would have been roughly about $300. So just so you can see, the Northern Residents Deduction, $8,532, and I got that from the $3,700. Okay, accommodations, airfare, the $1,200 I was restricted to on the trip, the lower amount, and my 307 days for $8,532. In this case, my income was $50,000 times 20% is $10,000. I'm under 10,000, so I get to claim the 8,532. And that's really the basics of the T2222. Now we can go back to the actual form, the PDF, and it is, step by step. It will explain to you. It talks about the claim per household. It talks about special work sites, all these special examples. It talks about how many trips you can claim, up to 2 trips for non-medical. You get the deduction, okay? Then you can claim any number of medical trips, okay? But no more than 2 non-medical trips taken by an individual, themselves, or an eligible family member can be claimed by all the tax years combined. And it gives you a bunch of examples here if you're wondering. And, you can go into those tax softwares like I did. We can go back into Taxtron and you can play a bit. And taxtips.ca as well. You can go in there and they do have a place where you can, do your taxes. Let's just go in here. This is where it talks about your marginal tax rates. And they do have a place. Let's see. We don't want to talk to AI. Everyone's getting where they want you to charge. Here, they have the detailed Canadian income and savings calculator. So if you want to play around and see, you can go into these calculators and you can actually calculate what do you qualify for. Whether you're using Intuit or whatever good software is there. Okay. So check out other calculators, basic income tax calculator, super simple. You can go in there and calculate based on returns for free. So I hope that helps. I am going to be getting into some properties. I've had a question come in about if I bought a condo, donated it to my 2 sons, I'm getting at that age where I don't want to deal with taxes or have a large estate when I move on. What are the tax consequences? So I'll be hitting on that one next this week. And I hope you guys enjoy this. Please thumbs up. I do this for free. Education to help people. And just subscribe, and send me any queries, whether it's through YouTube or shellyrbevs@gmail.com. It's typically in the slides. And for any topics that you want covered. Have a great day.